I was really hoping that I would be the exception, even though I haven't seen the best reviews for this. It's not great. I don't think it's going to get higher than a 3 stars. Now I've said that, it's going to end on a cliffhanger, isn't it? So in this reading vlog, I am going to be reading the first 3 books that were chosen for the new Fairyloot Romantasy subscription that launched earlier in 2024. When the subscription was announced, I was very intrigued because I like fantasy, I like romance, I like fantasy romance and romantasy, I think. Still haven't quite worked out the difference between fantasy romance and romantasy. However, I did hear a few people say that romantasy leans more towards the romance rather than the fantasy elements, and I tend to prefer a 50-50 balance. So for that reason, I wanted to do this vlog and make sure that I was actually reading these books quite quickly so I can decide whether or not I want to keep or cancel this subscription. I have already filmed this vlog. I'm filming the outro having already read the books, and it was an interesting time. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy this vlog. Let's throw it back to a few months ago when I had longer hair and I started reading the first book for this vlog. So I have made a start on the first book that I'm reading for this vlog, and that is Law of the Wilds by Analeigh Sbrana. This was the April book of the month, and I'm currently 30% of the way through. I don't know why I was just looking for the bookmark, because I'm actually listening to the audiobook for this. I found it through Everend and decided to give it a go because I haven't heard the best things about this book. I thought maybe the audiobook will enhance the experience. And even if it doesn't, even if I end up not enjoying this book, at least I'll get through it quicker with the audiobook. So I have now started this, like I said, I'm 30% of the way through. And so far, I think the audiobook is absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with the narration. However, I don't think this is very well written. It feels like things are moving way too quickly. So we've been introduced to our main character, Law, who is this human woman living in this village that's on the edge of the Fae realm. The people in this village are trapped there, they cannot leave. However, Law is taken at the start of this book to the Fae realm because they need a human's help in organising their magical library. Basically, there's this curse that's been put on this library, so the Fae can't pass through the doors, but they think that a human might be able to. So that's why Law is taken there, and they strike up this deal where she agrees to help them, but she's got an ulterior motive, like she's got her own agenda. That was the word I was looking for. She has her own agenda, basically. And there's also a romance. I know that this is going to have a love triangle, and I think we've met who I'm assuming is the first love interest. Not really feeling that much chemistry between them, which is a shame because I think that love triangles can actually be really interesting, or they can be done in an interesting way. The main reason I haven't enjoyed love triangles in the past is because usually I end up rooting for the other guy. Twilight is a great example where I was not rooting for the guy that the main character ended up getting together with in the end. So that, you know, that's a thing. I think this has so much potential, but the problem that I'm having at the moment is I think the world building has been quite shallow so far, and also there's been a lot of telling and not really much showing. For example, we're told that Law cares really deeply about her people and this village, but we literally spent 2 very short chapters there before she was taken away. And so her whole reason for why she's doing what she's doing, I'm just not feeling that invested, and I feel like I would have felt more invested if there'd been a little bit more build-up. I was really hoping that I would be the exception, even though I haven't seen the best reviews for this. I was really hoping that this would actually work for me, but yeah, so far it's okay. I'm not hating the audiobook, so I'm gonna continue listening to it, and I'm just really hoping that things pick up in the middle and then we end up having a really explosive ending. I think that this is going to be a duology. Not sure if it's a duology or a trilogy, but I know that this is the first book in a series, so yeah, a little disappointing so far, but I'm hoping hoping that things are going to start picking up. So I am over halfway through Lore of the Wilds by Analeigh Sbrana, and I'm very sorry to say I'm still not really liking this. I am going to finish it because the audiobook is fine and I don't have anything else to listen to right now, so I'm going to finish it and see how it wraps up. But I'm kind of bored. I feel like this doesn't really have much direction and the plot just isn't that interesting, which would be fine if I felt invested in the romance, but I'm just not really feeling that much chemistry between the two main characters. I also think the dialogue is really cliched and it feels awkward, especially because I'm listening to the audiobook. I can feel the awkwardness and it's, yeah, not what I wanted it to be, unfortunately. I think when a book has a low average rating on Goodreads, there can be a few different reasons why. For example, sometimes a book is mismarketed and so the people that are picking it up aren't enjoying it because it's not what they were expecting. Sometimes I think a book is just not well written, and this reads like a first draft. I think with a bit of editing, this could have been really good. I disagree with the people that are saying this should have been marketed as YA. The story itself, I think, could have appealed to an adult audience. It's just not very well written. It feels too fast, we're moving too quickly, and there's not really been any time to actually sit with the main character and explore what she's feeling. There's a lot of telling, not much showing. I think I said that before, and yeah, I'm just not really feeling immersed in the world. Like I said, I am going to finish this because I've made it this far. I might as well see how things wrap up, but I have heard that it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, so maybe that will bring it back around, but so far it's feeling like a 2 or 3 stars. So I finished reading Lore of the Wilds and I'm really sorry to say I'm gonna give this 2 stars. I think I already mentioned that I thought the pacing in this was too quick. There was also no real flow to the story. We seemed to jump from one thing to the next without any build up, and I really missed the quieter moments and the slower moments where we could really sit with the characters and see them build connections. I never really felt that invested in any of the romantic elements. So this does have a love triangle, but I would I don't know whether this should be marketed as a book that has a love triangle, especially considering how it ends. It's also described as spicy, which again I would disagree with. There's one spicy scene, but it didn't really add anything to the story. It felt kind of random. When I see the term cottagecore, I expect coziness, I expect slice of life, and I could see moments where it was trying to be that, but this got quite dark towards the end. It wasn't like super dark, but there were darker themes, and it just didn't really mesh that well. We also didn't spend anywhere near enough time in this enchanted library, considering it's the first thing that's mentioned at the top of the blurb. We should have spent the majority of the book, I would say, or at least a significant part of the book, exploring this library, and I think we got a few chapters and that was it. Then Lore was off on this quest where she's essentially trying to learn magic in order to save her people from the situation that they're in, and I just struggled to care about any of that when we didn't spend that much time with Lore and her people in the beginning of the book. There was one part where Lore goes off on this side quest, if you want to call it that, and it seemed to come out of nowhere, and then it was resolved so quickly. It just felt really convenient. This was just full of conveniences. Every time the main character faced some kind of threat, the stakes never felt high because it was resolved so quickly, and that would have been fine if this was cozy fantasy. I didn't feel any kind of tension within the plot or between either of the romantic leads, and I wasn't rooting for either love interest. I don't know how the author is going to resolve certain things in the sequel, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to read the sequel because I didn't like this, and I'm really upset because this is such a gorgeous edition. I've just realised I've left the shiny cover on, so that's going to really annoy me when I'm editing. But yeah, this is such a beautiful book and I really wanted to love it, but unfortunately I am going to give it 2 stars. Hopefully we'll have more luck with the next book from this subscription. So it's been a while since I last checked in with you for this vlog, but I have now made a start on A Curse of Blood and Wolves by Melissa McTernan. I actually decided to skip this box because I already had a copy on my Kindle from when it was an Amazon First Reads choice towards the end of last year, and I didn't see the point in paying for the special edition and owning it twice when I didn't think this was going to be my kind of thing, and I'm 35% of the way through. Can confirm it's not really my kind of thing. It's set in a contemporary setting, whereas I prefer a high fantasy world, and it also doesn't really have much plot. We're following this main character called Ruby, who lives in a small town and she works in a bar. She actually at one point describes herself as a sad goth girl, just to kind of give you an idea of, first of all, the writing in this, but also how the main character sees herself. Every evening after work, she walks home through the woods and she can feel someone watching her. Turns out that it's this guy who's a werewolf, like this is a shift of romance. The synopsis doesn't really give much away, but to be honest, that's because there is no plot. This so far has just been the two main characters having horny thoughts and feelings about each other, and I feel like it's gonna devolve to a point where it's just smut without any plot. Like if I had to explain what the plot was, the main character might be being targeted by another werewolf or another werewolf pack, and the love interest is trying to find out what's going on with that. It's just not my kind of thing. Like when I read a romance book, I want to feel the emotional connection between the characters, and so far this has just been lust, which is absolutely fine, but it's not what I prefer to read. So yeah, I'm gonna persist because I am determined to finish every single book for this vlog. It's not going to be a 5 stars though, I can tell you that now. It is not going to be a 5 stars, but I feel like this might end up being quite entertaining. It really depends on how things go in the middle and the second half. It's super cheesy right now, but sometimes I think that can be fun and entertaining. So yeah, I will check in with you once I'm past the halfway point, and hopefully I will be enjoying it a little bit more. I'm 60% of the way through now, and when I started this book, I had this assumption based on the language and the tone that this was going to be a smut heavy book and it was going to be more porn than plot, basically, which isn't what I would choose to read. However, I think sometimes it can be fun and it can be a good palate cleanser, so I was interested to see how I was going to find it. Can confirm that I was wrong, kind of. There's no plot. Absolutely zero plot, and the thing is, with a smut heavy book, I don't want it to be a slow burn. Like, we're 60% of the way through and we've had a couple of spicy scenes, but not as many as I was expecting based on how I felt in the beginning, and I'm just bored. Like, we've spent so much time learning about the characters' backstories and their pasts, and nothing interesting is being revealed. Like, if you'd asked me at the start of the book to make some predictions on what I thought was going to be the characters' backstories, like what has happened to them in the past to make them who they are today, I would have been right. If I'd given the most stereotypical answers, I would have been correct, and I'm just bored. I'm really bored. I mean, the good thing is, I think this is going to wrap up like a standalone. I think the other books in this series, because this is the first book in, I think it's called the Wolf Brothers series, and this main character, Rafe, has 2 brothers. He's the middle child, which I can relate to as the middle child, but yeah, there's just no tension between the characters, and I think if you're gonna build up their relationship for this long, then there needs to be that tension, but like, we all know what's gonna happen. So yeah, struggling with this one a little bit. However, I have found the audiobook on Everend, so I'm gonna listen to some of that while I'm on my walk today, and hopefully I can finish this today and give you my final thoughts tomorrow. Something else quickly before I forget is that the focus in this seems to be on the male main character, which is really interesting because I think I assumed that the focus was going to be on Ruby, or that it was going to be like dual narrative and we were going to get both characters equally developed, but no, it seems to be mostly on Rafe, and then we're kind of seeing some stuff with Ruby with her sister. Like, her parents passed away when they were young, and something's going on with her sister which I don't know if it would be considered a spoiler to say, because literally nothing is happening in this book, but yeah, it's not great. I don't think it's going to get higher than a 3 stars, but I only have like, I think I looked on the audiobook and it will take me about an hour and a half to finish, so I might as well go ahead and finish it tonight, and then I'll let you know my final thoughts tomorrow. It's really hot in the UK right now, so apologies if I look like a sweaty mess. I feel like a mess. I was working from the office today and the room where I work doesn't have the best aircon. There was an ice cream van as well that showed up this afternoon, and it was like Christmas. Everyone flocked out to the car park to this ice cream van because it was just so hot. But yeah, other than ranting about the weather, I also wanted to rant to you about this book. I've finished A Curse of Blood and Wolves by Melissa McTernan, and unfortunately I'm going to give it 2 stars, which I hate. I hate giving out more than 1 2-star rating in a reading vlog because I feel like it just isn't that exciting to hear about. I don't know, maybe it is, but yeah, this was not for me. It was so boring. I don't even know who I would recommend this to. Maybe if you really like shifter romances, then you might get on better with this, but the fantasy elements weren't very well developed. There was no plot, and I feel like the whole point of reading a romantasy or a fantasy romance is because you want fantasy and romance. This was all romance, no plot, and even the romantic elements just didn't quite work for me. Like, it's pitched like the synopsis describes this as a spicy Little Red Riding Hood retelling or reimagining. I didn't really see that. So yeah, unfortunately this was not a win, but I have got high hopes for the last book for this vlog. I received it last week, I think, and out of all of the books that I've received so far for this subscription, this is the one that I have the highest hopes for, so fingers crossed. I'm going to start it possibly tonight. You are balanced very precariously on a stack of books right now, but I have been editing all afternoon. I filmed my mid-year book tag earlier, so I'm almost done with that. I just need to proof it and then export it. But I thought I would take a break to let you know I have now started Nectar of the Wicked by Ella Fields. This is what the naked hardback looks like, and I'm enjoying this so far. I'm only around 66 pages in, but so far I think the concept is really intriguing. We are in this world that is split into like 3 dimensions, kind of. You have the Fae realm, the human realm, and then this realm in the middle where our main character lives, which is like an in-between sort of realm. Our main character is called Flea. That was the name that she was given by her adoptive guardian. She's a changeling, basically. She was brought from the Fae realm into this other realm when she was a baby and swapped out for this human child. So her guardian treated her horribly, but she's now 20 years old and she is desperate to get back to the Fae realm, or really she just wants to know who she is, which I think is understandable. I think it's a really interesting concept. We have already, within these first 66 pages, met the love interest, and I am intrigued about their dynamic. It feels a bit not enough of a slow burn for what is my personal taste, but I'm interested to see how their relationship develops anyway. The love interest is the king of the Winter Court, from what I gather, and yeah, he is this tall, dark, handsome, brooding fae, very grumpy, whereas she is much more innocent. She was basically kept as a slave by her guardian. She wasn't allowed out that much, and so she's discovering the world for the first time. It's that kind of vibe, and yeah, it's intriguing. I don't know whether this is going to be a new favourite of all time, but I'm having a better time with this than I had with the other 2 books for this vlog, so fingers crossed I do end up enjoying this. I am going out this evening with some friends, so I might read some more of this tomorrow, but I'm reading this alongside another book. That other book is quite, not dense, but it's a lot slower to get through, so I'm hoping I can fly through this. I flew through those first 4-5 chapters really quickly. The writing is flowing really well, which I'm liking. So I am currently around 155 pages into Nectar of the Wicked. I'm almost halfway through, so making good progress. I'm enjoying this so much more than the first 2 books that I read for this vlog. However, there are certain things that aren't really to my personal taste, and that doesn't mean that it's a bad book. It just means that maybe it's not going to be a new favourite or anything like that. For example, we're almost at the halfway point and already there have been multiple spicy scenes, which for some people would be a bonus. Like, I fully understand that, but I find spicy scenes much more satisfying when the characters have built up an emotional connection and there's deeper feelings there. That's not the kind of romance that we're getting in this book though, and that's again not a bad thing. This is a marriage of convenience, so it feels more transactional, like they both have reasons for establishing this relationship, but they also are very much attracted to each other, or at least the main character is really attracted to this Winter King. Not really sure about him, and I think that's where I'm struggling because this is single person POV. It's told in first person perspective, which again isn't my favourite. We're getting all of her thoughts, but we're not getting anything from him. He's very stoic, except during these spicy scenes. So it just feels a little bit jarring, and I feel like he might have ulterior motives that we don't know yet because the main character is quite naive and she doesn't have that much experience. It's an interesting dynamic. There's this power imbalance where he's a king, she is no one. That sounds really harsh, but she doesn't know anything about her past, where she came from. All she knows is the life that she had living in the Middlelands. So yeah, mixed feelings at the moment. I am intrigued to see what direction the plot goes in because it's been building up quite slowly so far. The plot is essentially the main character wants to find out where she came from. There's also another plot involving some sort of political tensions. I don't want to go too much into it because we don't know too much about that yet. It's intriguing, that is holding my attention, and I'm finding it really compulsively readable. Feeling like it's going to be somewhere between a 3 and a 4 stars at the moment, but it depends on how the second half goes. So this update is probably going to be a little bit rambly because I have less than 100 pages left of Nectar of the Wicked. I keep wanting to call it Kingdom of the Wicked, but that's a whole other book. I have less than 100 pages left of this, and it's not for me. I am having a decent time with it, but I don't love this type of love interest where they're very possessive and over the top and dark and twisty. Like, some people I know absolutely love that. So if you have this subscription and you know that you like that type of love interest, then I feel a lot more confident recommending this than some of the other books in this subscription so far. I think some people are gonna absolutely eat this up, but I don't like the love interest, and also the main character is starting to really annoy me. Her actions aren't matching her thoughts, so she keeps thinking about how much she hates this guy, which fair, but then she's still lusting after him, and it feels really jarring. Like, this is very spicy, so again, I think if you want something that has a lot of smut, then this could really work for you. Yeah, still having mixed feelings about this one, but maybe I will enjoy these last 100 pages and it will make me want to pick up the sequel. I know that this is a duology, but right now, I don't know, this is just okay. I don't know whether I feel invested enough to read the sequel, unless it ends on a massive cliffhanger, which, now I've said that, it's going to end on a cliffhanger, isn't it? So I have now finished Nectar of the Wicked by Ella Fields, and I'm going to give this a 3 stars, which is the highest rating I've given to a book in this vlog so far. I thought this was fine. I just hit myself in the face then. I thought this was okay. I would recommend it to certain people. I actually think if you like the sound of the synopsis, then you might end up enjoying this more than me. I didn't really read the synopsis that closely, but I have gone back and read the author letter that's found in the beginning, and I think the author really achieved what they set out to achieve with this book. It says here that this is a dark, magically whimsical romantasy steeped in angsty romance. The romance takes centre stage and the spice is the splice. The spice is plentiful, and I would agree with all of those things. The only thing I don't quite agree with is it says that it's a journey to self-discovery and belonging, and it's a story about surviving the dark by embracing unexpected love and found family, and we didn't quite get to that part, I don't think, in this book. I'm wondering whether that's going to be the main theme of the second book, but right now I don't think I'm going to pick up book 2. Let me know if you've read it and whether you think it is worth reading, but this was 75% romance in my opinion, and then around 25% plot, and I just didn't feel that invested in the romance. The love interest was not the kind of love interest that I personally enjoy, but I know that some people love this kind of dark, brooding love interest. I just couldn't get past the things that the love interest did. The main character kept going back and forth saying or thinking how much she hated this guy and all of that kind of stuff, but then her actions weren't mirroring her thoughts or her words, and it just didn't work for me. Reminded me a little bit of the Twisted series by Anna Huang. If you've read Twisted Love, even though that's a contemporary romance, the love interest in that, Alex, is scary. I didn't like him, and I felt a similar way about the love interest in this book, where some of the stuff that he did I felt was kind of unforgivable without him doing some serious grovelling, and he was very unapologetic about everything that he was doing, and on top of that it felt very stereotypical, or he felt like a very cookie cutter version of this caricature. I don't think this really did anything unique or super different, so yeah, those were my overall thoughts. I will say, if you are looking for a happy book, then this is not that. It's very dark. The main character goes from one abusive situation to another, and not much happiness really comes to her. Like, the ending in particular was quite intense. There's also scenes of torture in this, which were a little bit gruesome. So yeah, just to set your expectations, I think that if all of that sounds right up your alley, then you will probably devour this. But yeah, I'm giving it 3 stars. I didn't think it was bad, but I didn't love it either. I haven't decided yet what I'm gonna do about this subscription. I think I probably am gonna end up cancelling it unless I like the next few books that I get. I have got the July book come in. I think that's due to arrive at some point next week, and that actually sounds quite fun. I think it's got some sort of heist plot, and it's recommended for fans of Leigh Bardugo, so I have decided to get that one because I think I might enjoy it. I've skipped the August box, or I'm going to skip the August box, because based on the teaser reel for the August box, I don't think it's going to be my kind of thing, so I'm going to skip that one. And then they haven't released any information yet about September's book, so we will see about that one. But yeah, I think I might end up cancelling this once I've used up all of my skips, because there's probably plenty of people out there who are going to love this subscription, but I'm starting to think it's maybe not for me. Fairyloot have also recently announced that from next year they're going to be doing a quarterly epic fantasy subscription, and I'm much more interested in that, especially getting a book quarterly rather than monthly. It's going to be less books adding to my TBR, and I think I might enjoy the choices more for that than for this one. So yeah, we will see. Let me know in the comments if you have this subscription, if you've read any of these books and what you've thought of them. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me, especially if you would like me to do a follow-up to this video, because like I said, I'm skipping the August box, but I could do another vlog reading the July book and the September book if I get it. Let me know if that's something that you would be interested in, but otherwise I will see you next time. Bye.